Hello, I'm Valerie Alawiye, and welcome to Navigating Chronic Illness with Heart and Hope, a space for reflection, renewal, and grace in the midst of chronic illness and grief. As we begin this final part of the series, it's helpful to return to the path we've been walking together as a way of grounding ourselves in what has already shifted. In part one, we explored how creative expression often changes in the presence of chronic illness and how that change can quietly alter the way you see yourself. We spent time naming the grief that can emerge when familiar forms of expression become less accessible, and we expanded the definition of creativity so that it remains available beyond specific activities or outcomes. In part two, we moved into reconnection. We looked at how creativity can be approached with curiosity and how experimentation allows you to discover what feels accessible within your current capacity. We also considered how small points of engagement can begin to rebuild a relationship with creativity over time, even when that relationship looks different than it once did. Building on that foundation, in part three, we discuss how sustaining creativity requires a different orientation, one that allows it to remain present without becoming another area where you feel evaluated. I want to start this final part with an anecdote from my own life. After many years of scrapbooking as a solo endeavor, I discovered crops. Now, for those of you who may not know what those are, they're one day or weekend retreats, large or small, where people rent tables in a space, bring their creative projects and materials, and spend focused, dedicated time working on their scrapbooks. If you know anything about me, you know that I attended these events with a detailed project outline, carefully curated designs and layouts, and the exact tools, adhesives, and embellishments that I needed to complete my plans. In stark contrast, there were people who would quite literally show up with their entire craft rooms in tow. One of the things that I loved about these events was sitting next to or across from people I didn't know. At one event, I sat across from someone who made these plywood boxes and would turn them into beautiful multimedia jewelry boxes. I asked her if she sold them, and her response shocked me. She said that although she sometimes gifted them, most of the time she simply photographed her creations, packed them in tissue, and stored them. Then she said, "I simply create to create," as if her statement and perspective created a major shift in me. It not only opened up a door, but quite literally shifted the foundation of the way I view creative expression. For me, there was always an endpoint, a completed performance, a finished album, a completed manuscript. Now I view creative expression as an open invitation, something I can pick up when I'm ready, or put down when my capacity fluctuates, or release entirely if it no longer serves me. As we move into this final discussion, I invite you to join me in expanding your thoughts about creative expression in your own life and consider this question: what if I simply created to create? One of the most meaningful shifts you can make is moving away from seeing creativity as something that requires effort and toward understanding it as something that exists within a relationship. When creativity is framed as effort, it often becomes tied to discipline. You may begin to measure your engagement in terms of consistency, output, or progress. Over time, that measurement can introduce pressure, especially when your capacity changes from day to day. A relationship based understanding creates more flexibility. Relationships are not defined by perfect consistency, they're shaped through continued connection over time, even when that connection varies in intensity or form. Christy Brown created his work through significant physical limitation, using the only part of his body he could reliably control. His creative life didn't follow a predictable rhythm. It developed gradually, shaped by what was possible at any given time. What becomes evident in examples like this is that connection to expression can remain steady even when the process itself changes. For you, sustaining creativity may involve allowing that relationship to take precedent over any expectation of how it should look. There may be periods where engagement feels natural and accessible, and others where it feels more distant. There may be moments where creativity is active, and others where it's more observational or internal. There may be times when you are actively writing, arranging, or moving in ways that feel expressive. At other times, it may take the form of listening to music and allowing your mind to follow the rhythm, or imagining movement when your body needs stillness. Each of these experiences reflects connection, even when the form shifts. Maintaining the relationship doesn't require you to equalize those moments. It asks only that you remain open to returning. Consistency is often one of the most challenging concepts to reinterpret when living with chronic illness. In many areas of life, consistency is associated with reliability and discipline. It's often defined by repetition and predictability, which can feel out of reach when your energy and capacity fluctuate from day to day or can become difficult to sustain. A more supportive understanding of consistency focuses on returning rather than repetition. Returning allows you to engage with creativity when it's accessible without requiring you to maintain a fixed pattern or expecting each experience to mirror the last. Frida Kahlo created many of her works while confined to bed, often in the midst of intense physical pain. Her process adapted to her circumstances, and her work reflected her lived experience rather than an external standard of how or when creativity should occur. When you shift your understanding of consistency in this way, something important changes. You're no longer trying to maintain a standard, you're maintaining a connection. It might look like picking up a pen and writing after days or weeks away without needing to recreate a previous flow. It might look like sitting with a scrapbook page, choosing colors or textures without needing to complete anything. It might also look like engaging in something entirely different that still shows you and allows you to express or process. This allows for interruption without creating distance and re engagement without needing to account for time that has passed, which allows creativity to remain part of your life without becoming something that must be managed. While mindset plays an important role in sustaining creativity, the way you structure your environment is equally significant. When your environment supports your capacity, engagement becomes easier to enter and easier to sustain. This can take many forms, depending on your preferences and your needs. For example, You might choose to keep materials visible and within reach so that beginning doesn't require a lot of preparation. Or you might gravitate towards forms of expression that can be paused and resumed without difficulty so that you can engage without needing to commit to extended periods of time. You may also find that leaving space in your schedule rather than assigning specific blocks of time allow you to respond more naturally to fluctuations in your energy. These adjustments may seem small, yet they have a meaningful impact. Research in behavioral science consistently shows that reducing friction increases the likelihood of engagement. When something is easier to begin, it becomes more likely to remain part of your experience. Within the context of chronic illness, you're shaping your environment so that what matters to you remains accessible. Creative expression evolves over time, even in the absence of illness. When chronic illness is present, that evolution often becomes more visible. Holding tightly to a specific form of expression can create tension, particularly when that form no longer aligns with your current experience or capacity. Allowing creativity to change shape creates space for continuity. Alice Wong has adapted her creative work through the use of technology, collaboration, and alternative methods of communication. Her work continues to expand, shaped by her lived experience rather than constrained by it. You may find similar shifts emerging in your own life. Activities that once felt central may feel less accessible, while others begin to feel more aligned. You may notice that your engagement becomes quieter or more internal. Imagination may take on a greater role, particularly during times when physical energy is limited. These changes reflect the flexibility of creativity. When you allow creative expression to evolve in this way, you maintain continuity without requiring sameness. As you begin to sustain a relationship with creativity in a way that reflects your current life, you may notice that grief doesn't simply disappear once reconnection begins. In many cases, grief changes. Earlier in the process, grief may feel closely tied to loss, the loss of certain abilities, the loss of ease, or the loss of familiar ways of expressing yourself. As you reconnect with creativity in new forms, those losses may feel less immediate, yet they can still surface in quieter ways. You might experience moments where something feels accessible again, followed by an awareness that it's not accessible in the same way it once was. You might feel a sense of appreciation for what is possible now, alongside a recognition of what has changed. These experiences can exist at the same time. Grief in this stage often becomes less about what's gone and more about what's different. There may be moments when your body doesn't respond the way you would like. There may be times when your energy limits how deeply you can engage. There may also be moments when creativity feels unexpectedly available, even in a form you hadn't anticipated. All of these experiences are part of the landscape that you're navigating. Rather than trying to resolve grief or move past it, you may find that it becomes part of what gives your expression depth and honesty. And over time, you may begin to notice that your relationship with creativity is no longer defined by what's changed, but by how you continue to engage in the presence of that change. Sustaining creativity is not only about maintaining engagement, it's also about maintaining a connection to meaning. Creative expression offers a way to process experience, to reflect, and to remain connected to a sense of self that extends beyond illness. Audre Lorde wrote about a role of creative expression in giving voice to lived experience and in creating space for truth to emerge. Her work illustrates how creativity can function as both reflection and affirmation, particularly in the presence of challenge. In your own life, creative expression may serve a similar purpose. It may provide moments where your attention is directed towards something other than symptoms. It may offer a sense of agency when other aspects of life feel uncertain. It may create continuity and identity, allowing you to remain connected to who you are in ways that extend beyond what has changed. These moments don't need to be frequent to be meaningful. Their impact often lies in their presence. As you consider how creativity fits into your life moving forward, it's natural for new questions to emerge. You may find yourself reflecting on how to maintain this connection without introducing pressure. You may wonder how to respond when your capacity changes yet again, or how to navigate the emotional layers that arise as you continue this process. These reflections are part of sustaining the relationship with creative expression, and having a space where you can explore these questions openly, where you can adjust your approach over time, and where your experience is met with an understanding can provide a sense of steadiness. Coaching can offer that space. It allows for ongoing reflection and thoughtful adjustment without requiring you to arrive at a fixed answer. As we bring this series to a close, I want to offer a final perspective. Creative expression remains available, even as the way you access it evolves. It doesn't require perfect conditions or consistent output. It can exist in forms that move with you. What sustains creative expression is the relationship you maintain with it over time. I invite you to consider this question. What would it look like to remain connected to creativity in a way that reflects your life as it is now? If you would like support as you continue exploring this, you're invited to visit our coaching inquiry page to learn more about what type of coaching may be right for you in a space that's designed to help you reflect on your needs and consider what kind of support would feel most aligned. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation. May your relationship with creativity remain present, adaptable, and sustaining as you move forward. Want to learn more? Subscribe to my newsletter at https:// coaching for chronic illness.kit.com/newsletter for ongoing reflections, free tools, and notification of new episodes of Navigating Chronic Illness with Heart and Hope with Valerie Alawieh, my video series on grief, illness, and gentle healing. Or visit https:// www.coachingforchronicillness.com/coaching-inquiry/ to explore more options to receive support.